Hi guys, welcome to this week's lesson. We're going to be using Sam Balance Lab Trackman and V1 this week, trying to use all of our software to try and understand where the weight in your feet should be pressure-wise. Obviously Sam Balance Lab gives us a very good indication of where our weight is on the way back, at impact and on the follow-through, and how this can influence your swing path as well as your other numbers on Trackman, just because your weight is moving around too much during the backswing, at impact and at follow-through. So one of the most common things that I see with the amateur golfers nowadays is we see the amateur golfer falling forwards because they tend to start on the balls of their feet, but because they tend to throw their arms, they tend to fall forwards onto their toes, and that actually makes the club get very steep from the outside, and they tend to hit the ball either fat or because they're moving onto their toes and they're moving forward, they early release the hands and they hit it fit. So I'm going to hit two shots here. We'll see what the Sam Balance Lab says, we'll see what Trackman says, we'll see it on video as well. I've taken a few screen grabs of previous swings as well, just to give you an example of what happens. I'm going to hit one when I fall over onto my toes, and then I'm going to hit one where I stay back. And we're going to look at the difference in numbers on Trackman, but also look at the difference on what happens if you do stay a little bit more back. I like to teach staying back because what it does do is it stops us from early extending our hips, which is something I see a lot of amateur players do. So I'm going to hit those two shots. We'll take a look at the data, and then obviously you can try this out for yourself. And if you decide that you're not sure where your weight distribution is, obviously you can just book a lesson with me in the studios, and we can have a look at it together and see how that influences your distance numbers, but also how much more consistent that's going to make you. So let's hit two shots here. Let's have a look at what it looks like, and then obviously from there we can deduce what sort of tends to happen on those two sorts of mistakes, let's put it, and how you can rectify that and make the shots more consistent. So as you can see on those two different screenshots and with the data that we've shown is when I tend to fall onto my toes, my pressure goes down from 493 down to 450. So I'm losing power, I'm losing ground force, as well as what happens is you can see my hips, if there's a line this side, my hips tend to go this way, so I don't get as much rotation, so I can't fully rotate my hips open. And what happens as a result of that is, as I get stuck with my hands, I gotta throw my hands, and then either if I don't time my release with my hands in time, I'm gonna block it out to the right, or I'm gonna hit a big snap hook where it will start right at target and draw too much, which is actually my bad shot. So what I did notice is when I stayed back, I actually got a much better strike. I could feel I was more grounded throughout impact, which is obviously the most important part of the golf swing. And the shape changed a lot. I went from hitting a big high draw when I was on my toe to actually hitting a little fade with a much better sort of feeling off the club face. Didn't feel like I had to save it with my hands as much. And I got a bit more distance, obviously, because I was more efficient and my strike was better. So something to bear in mind. Obviously, there are different concepts on this, but my belief is if you start back, it's a lot easier to stay back. And it certainly helped me, and I'm sure if you do keep that sort of principle, remember you've got to make sure you're still rotating, but try and keep your weight more on the back of your feet through impact, and that should actually help you generate a little bit more ground force and get those hips a little bit more open and produce better shots. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.